Hello and welcome back to another video. Today here again on Forza Horizon 5 to take a look at another brand new addition to the series, the Pagani Huayra R. Just like the Lotus the other day, the Pagani is part of the latest paid DLC for Forza Horizon 5. Whichever version of the game you bought, you will have to pay for this if you want access to these cars. But it is very reasonably priced at only £3.99 here in the UK. So for me at least, I think it's definitely well worth it, even just for that Lotus the other day, because I absolutely love that. Although, this is pretty cool as well. The easiest way to get hold of this pack, if you haven't already, is to go to any festival in Forza, go to the Buy and Sell tab, go to Car Packs, and you'll see here the Horizon Racing Car Pack. And then you can buy them all here. The Lotus, of course, that we looked at the other day, video on that if you want to see that in more detail, and I will be back very soon to take a look at the Celine truck and the Nissan Ultimaniac. Just like the Zonda R before it, the Huayra R is a track-only V12 monster. I'm also incredibly happy to see that just like that Zonda R, which is already in this game, you can remove the rear shell in Forza Vista to get an up-close view of that huge 6-litre AMG V12 engine, which, as you might have guessed, sounds incredible and is pretty powerful, producing 838 horsepower and 750 torques. Compared to some hypercars these days, that isn't loads, but this is substantially lighter than most of those, at least anything with a big engine, at just over 1,100 kilos, which is in fact 40 kilos lighter than the Zonda R even. Not really much point looking at the upgrades then, if it's already that ridiculous from standard, so, well, let's go and do exactly that. Let's take a very quick glimpse at the visual options before we do that, starting of course with the paint. There are no paint groups and there's only one manufacturer design, this one, because, well, that's kind of how they're all sold, although presumably not all with the number 1. So yes, there are no painting options. And it's the same story in the upgrade shop. There, of course, aren't that many options. It's very much like the AMG GT Black Series that we looked at the other day. There are no aero options, so you can't ruin it with Forza Aero, but I'm not sure why you would. It already has a massive splitter and quite a large rear wing, although not quite as impressive as the Zonda R's, I don't think. It does have one engine swap, the Racing V12, which makes it worse. You can, of course, all-wheel drive swap it, twin-turbo it, and do all of the usual tyre upgrades. It seems to be on... No, it's on slicks from standard, so if you put it on semi-slicks, it drops the PI somewhat. I don't think you'd quite get it to... It's not going to go to S1, or if you did manage to do that, it would be horrendous, I imagine. Everything else is kind of as you would expect it to be. So, as it's already a ridiculously fast track-only car, and is fairly near the top of S2 class-ish, I thought I would take it into Horizon Open completely stock to begin with, just like we did with the AMG GT Black Series. And I got into the first race of an adventure again. My luck with these seems pretty unlikely as of late, but anyway. The first race was at the Panoramica Sprint, where partly because I was stuck behind a Mosler, but mostly because I drove incredibly badly, I spent much of the race last, but did manage to gain one place up to 7th at the end, when a Lambo deathed quite badly. Second was Junus Blancus, and a load of people had left by this point, so the race started with only 6 participants, one of whom, the Mosler, decided to try and kill me, as I was basically overtaking him, and then once he had lost the position, promptly left, which effectively demoted me to last place, where I stayed until the end, diverting to visit the shed of many crashes on the way, of course, as is tradition on that route. And finally, we went to the Los Jardins circuit, which started well, but I then promptly missed a checkpoint, so I thought that was that. However, I did manage to gain a couple of places back, one through ghost mode, but I then threw those away during the last lap, mostly stupidly attempting the chicane at the end of the lap almost flat, in an attempt to take that ultimate at the end. So again, as ever, and similarly to the AMG GT Black Series, stock is never going to be particularly competitive for Horizon Open, but it is sometimes quite fun to take a car in like that, just to see if you can finish not last, essentially. But anyway, with that out of the way, I decided it was time to actually put a tune on, so I put on this S2 class Nalak all-wheel drive tune, with power up to 1009 horsepower, but weight also slightly higher at 1169 kilos, and the all-wheel drive should make it launch well and be slightly easier to drive, even if I feel slightly bad about doing a conversion on this car. Because, well, it was a little slippery on the throttle from stock, so hopefully this will just make it that bit more stable, and, well, being actually at the top of the class, faster. This time though, I only managed to join for the second race of an adventure, starting with the Lanurus Sprint, where I found out the tune has a tendency for sudden dramatic oversteer at very high speeds, admittedly mostly when I clipped the dirt, but still, it was a little bit scary in a few places. But despite this, I won that first race, and by quite a long way too. Next up was the Los Jardins circuit, which I drove a lot better around and ended up literally lapping the 7th place vehicle, again finishing quite far in front. And as this wasn't a full set of 3 races, I did the first race of another adventure off camera. Not intentionally, I just forgot to record that again. Anyway, that race was the Vulcan Sprint, which I had some challenge from a Mosler that was clearly much faster on the straights, but as this route is mostly corner-based, I did win again in the Pagani. The second race of that adventure was going to be a Stadio, but I realised pretty soon into that one that I wasn't recording, so I left, basically. But yes, it won every race that it participated in with the tune on. And that is going to do it for a very first look at the Pagani Huayra R here on Forza Horizon 5, the second car from the new Horizon Racing car pack. I still think it's worth it, really. It's priced at $399. I know this and the Lotus are realistically the only reasons to buy the pack, though, because the other cars are quite irrelevant. Although for me, personally, the Lotus was what sold it, and I probably would have bought it just for that car. But yeah, this is also a pretty fun one, and quite mad from stock. But as with any stock car, it will not be competitive like that, even if it was great fun to race it in stock configuration. With an S2 class tune, it seemed pretty unbeatable. I just hope it isn't the outright fastest, as that doesn't feel right if it's in a paid DLC. Sort of pay to win, if you like, but I don't think it is. It is fast, but I'm sure there are faster cars in this class. Just maybe we didn't come up against anything that was particularly good, with a particularly good tune in those sets of races. So yeah, it's very quick, very competitive probably in S2, but I don't think it's going to be the outright fastest. But I had a lot of fun in it and won some races, which is unusual for a class that high for me. Anyway, for a very first look at the Pagani, the second car from the pack, that is going to be all. So far, I'm loving the cars in this DLC, although yeah, I'm less excited for the remaining 2, but I will be back to look at those very soon, because I'm still kind of interested to see what they will be like. For now, though, thank you very much for watching, and I will be back with the next video very soon.